Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. With baseball season behind LSU fans, we now turn to one of my least favorite times of the year, the list making. Ooh, the list makers are coming out in the groves this summertime. Sometimes these lists that they make are not even about sports because, why not? You get bored sometimes. But you have to make these lists because as list makers, we wait for college football camps to start in August and we have to be entertained, as is tradition. The first big list that the list makers seem to like on a yearly tradition is ranking the top 10 coaches in the sport. And Bill Bender of the Sporting News, a guy who we used to have a lot on in the radio station I worked at last year, very good sports writer, he made an updated list on the top 131 coaches in Division I college football, ranking all of them from 1 to 131. So, take a guess who's number 1. Kirby Smart. Now I'm just fucking with you. Number 1's Nick Saban, as is tradition. Number 2, Dabo Swinney. And number 3, Kirby Smart. I'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that would disagree with the order of the first 3, okay? Just count the number of national titles and recent success. The first 3 are kind of obvious. But the next 3 coaches on this list is what got people talking. And good on Bill Bender, by the way. He's a good writer, and part of this list every year is to help stir the pot in the offseason. So number 4 on this list, he had Ryan Day of Ohio State. Number 5, Luke Fickell of Cincinnati. And number 6, Brian Kelly of your LSU Fighting Tigers. Okay, first thing we have to ask ourselves is, what is the criteria of this list? Is it based on last year's production or overall accomplishments, or maybe a mixture of both? Because I asked a simple question the other day. What has Ryan Day and Luke Fickell accomplished more than Brian Kelly? The answer is easy. It's nothing. Objectively, nothing. Brian Kelly has the most wins and second best winning percentage among all active coaches. Brian Kelly took 4 programs from obscurity to historic relevance. Different than, say, Ryan Day inheriting an easier program to win at Ohio State than, say, Notre Dame, that had just won the Big Ten title the year before he took over. Everyone outside of delusional Notre Dame fans that are also probably into conspiracy theories can see Brian Kelly coached at Notre Dame with one hand tied behind his back versus Ryan Day, who, in my opinion, arguably has the best job in college football, coming off of a 13-1 season. Brian Kelly has been to more college football playoff appearances than Luke Fickell, and the same as Ryan Day. You could say Luke Fickell has done the same thing Brian Kelly did at Cincinnati from 2007 to 2009. Sure, 3 straight double-digit winning seasons and a top 4 finish in the polls. All of that's true. But Brian Kelly did that faster than Luke Fickell did at the exact same job. On and on and on. Over the career of all 3 coaches, there is nothing objectively that you can say why Ryan Day and Luke Fickell should be ahead of Brian Kelly. Nothing. There's nothing objectively you can say that. But it's clearly not on the basis of just career achievements. Because if it was just career achievements total, then Mac Brown would be a hell of a lot higher than number 15 on this list. Okay, fair enough. But even then, there should still be no reason why those 2 coaches are ahead of Brian Kelly. But someone on Twitter did make the argument that Luke Fickell should be ahead of Brian Kelly because Fickell beat him head-to-head last year and had more NFL draft picks than Notre Dame did last year. Fine, okay. It's a stupid reason why to put him ahead, but as long as the stupidity is consistent, I can live with it. Bill Bender is not stupid, however. But if you're using the Twitter fan logic of last year was better than this year and he won the head-to-head and had more NFL draft picks, okay, then why isn't Kirby Smart ranked ahead of Dabo Swinney? Georgia beat Clemson head-to-head last year. Georgia had more NFL draft picks than Clemson last year. Matter of fact, Bill Bender wrote in his article, it was tempting to put Kirby Smart ahead of Dabo simply because he beat him head-to-head last year, but the overall accomplishments of Dabo Swinney are more impressive. There's no consistency. Brian Kelly should be ahead of Luke Fickell. Well, what about Ryan Day? Okay, fine. Ryan Day has the same number of college football appearances as Brian Kelly. Cool. But it's more impressive to me that you took over 3 Division I programs and even 1 Division II program and turned them all around from absolutely nothing into contenders in just a short 3-year span. Then say, as Jim Harbaugh put it with Ryan Day last year, some people are born on third base thinking they were born on first. Plus, Brian Kelly also went to a BCS title game in 2012 where he got his ass beat by Alabama. Ryan Day went to a national title game, sure, in 2020, and he got his ass beat by Alabama. Brian Kelly also went 11-1 last season, and Ryan Day went 10-2 last season. So none of it just really kind of adds up as far as recent success or career success. And look, as great of a job as Luke Fickell has done in Cincinnati, I'm a Luke Fickell fan, I really am. He wasn't the first to do it there. Brian Kelly was a decade plus previous to Luke Fickell. And Brian Kelly did it in a shorter amount of time and in a tougher schedule when Cincinnati was still in the Big East as opposed to right now being in the American. They would have gone to the playoffs in 2009 had they had the college football playoffs. Cincinnati finished third in all of the polls and in the BCS after the regular season and the conference title. What's the difference? But the head-to-head matchup, that should count for something, Nick. Sure. In the same way that Ed Ogeron is 2-0 head-to-head against Kirby Smart at Georgia. And has the same number of national titles. Raise your hand if you'd hire Ed Ogeron above Kirby Smart right now. I didn't think so. Look, this list, it served its purpose. It got people talking. But with all due respect to Bill Bender, who I do have respect for, I see very little consistency to this list. I'll respectfully disagree. And anyone else's argument to the contrary really just makes no sense either. Brian Kelly is a top 5 coach in college football. Boy, that sounds like a homer take to me, Nick. No, that's just logic. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.